Okay, welcome everyone to another of our RSC webinars to help prepare the steering team for managing the RSC process. This month we're looking at preparing for your first council meeting. The focus of that first council meeting is to introduce RSC to your council so that we can engage them in designing your school counseling program. So here's today's agenda. We will prep for Advisory Council Meeting 1. We will do a quick review of RSC. Then we'll do a walkthrough of the manual that has all of the Debbie just texted me that I am not showing the slides. Maybe I have to, okay, Debbie, how is that? Are you able to see slides now?
Yes.
Okay.
Good, thanks.
I'm learning. Before we started recording, we did our first, we did a poll, and I guess you can't see my slides until we've closed the poll. So good. Okay. So we're prepping for our first council meeting, and then here's the agenda for our work together today. We're going to do a quick review of RSC. Then we'll walk through the manual so that you can see all of the resources that are available for you to conduct that first council meeting. Then we'll pull up the slides and the agenda for that council meeting, and we'll walk through what you'll be doing at that council meeting. And then finally, we'll pull up the process page and look again at resources that are there and what you'll be submitting. And then we'll finally look at the rubrics for the submissions that come in this month. So, okay, one thing before we get started, you probably are aware that Lilly Endowment has decided to have a round 2 for their Lilly Counseling Initiative. And any school that was not funded in round 1, any district that was not funded in round 1 is eligible to apply for round 2 funding. And we just wanted to let everyone know that we are going to be recruiting a second cohort of schools to participate in Guiding All Kids. So if your district did not get the round 1 of the Lilly funding, you are more than welcome to have your district contact us, and we will make sure that we're providing them support as they prepare their application for the round 2 funding for Lilly. And just real quickly, what the difference is between RSC and Guiding All Kids is this. In RSC, we're doing all the foundational pieces. That's what we're doing right now. And we're building the counselor delivery methods. So we're talking about how do counselors provide a school counseling program. So with Guiding All Kids, we build on that. We say, okay, how can we drop in guidance lessons through a teacher advisor program, through community-based guidance initiative, through parents advising their own children, and through academic integration where we're combining the guidance curriculum with math or English or science curriculum, etc. So basically, instead of just having this be one program where school counselors are delivering activities, we're looking at how can counselors get others to help them engage and deliver a school counseling initiative. So it's really systemic in approach. In year 1, we set up the counselor program. In year 2, we set up the community-based guidance initiative. In year 3, we set up the teacher advisor initiative. And then in year 4 of the Lilly funding, we set up the academic integration and the parents as advisors. So if that's something that's interesting to you and you're not already funded by Lilly, please talk to your district and talk to us, and we'll be providing some webinars for your districts to help them engage in this initiative. And then one other thing is we are putting together a special group of rural schools that would do a joint application for the Lilly funding. So if you are a rural school and this is of interest to you, please contact me right away and I'll explain to you how to become part of the rural school cohort that will be applying in one common application for the Lilly funding. So, okay. Then going on, as we talk about preparing for your council meeting, your first council meeting, please don't forget that you can call Debbie anytime, and that she is here to answer any of your questions, to troubleshoot with you or brainstorm with you. So please call Debbie at any time when you need help or just want to talk. So, okay, now let's do a quick review. So, in RSC, Redesigning School Counseling, we believe that school counseling programs help students make sound choices in areas that impact academic success. And as we start to meet with your council this month, it's really important to understand that school counseling impacts academic achievement by helping students make sound choices. So, as we design your program, we're cognizant that when students are involved in sound guidance and counseling programs, they make better choices, and because of that, achievement will go up. The whole focus of redesigning school counseling is to help kids make those good choices. And your council, as they start convening now, will be looking at down the road, what choices do we want students to make? Those will become your program goals, and then we'll design your guidance and counseling initiatives to help students make those choices. So as we're designing then, we're starting out with academic achievement. Then we're going to look with your council at student choices, and then you'll look at, okay, what activities do we put in place in order to help kids make those choices? The focus is on student choices, and this month you'll be kind of introducing this concept to your council, as well as really helping them understand the vocabulary that you'll be using for the next several months as they help you design your program. So the process then is this. We've already completed the first step, which is getting ready. So you put together your steering team, you've collected data, you've done some self-studies, and you've recruited your advisory council members. So in December, what we'll do first is talk with your council. So we'll have that first meeting with your council, and again, it's just an introduction to kind of talk about the foundational beliefs, the vocabulary. We will be doing one activity with the council. They'll be helping you this month to develop your benefits statement. So yeah, so that's this month. And then in January, we'll meet with the council again to set up your vision. In February, we'll meet for the third time with the council to establish your program goals. And then in March, they'll help you expand resources and look at your priority goals. And then later in March, we'll be looking at your root causes. So this priority goals, that will happen in February, March, probably more in February. And then in March, we'll look at, okay, what's getting in the way of those priority goals? And those are the root causes. Then we'll start to explore best practices, and we'll be doing that exploration as a steering team mainly in April. And then in May, you'll have your final meeting with your council, and they'll help you select the activities that you want to implement. And then after that, after the final meeting of your council, as a steering team, you'll be looking at preparing to implement the activities that the council came up with you. So you'll be looking at preparing guidance lessons, and then a program calendar. Your individual counselor calendars will look at, and then preparing a budget for the coming year. So, okay, so that's the process. And let me just pause real quickly, see if we have any questions. Debbie, any questions that are typed in or hands up?
We had one question on where to find the handout, so you might want to let them know where that is, and that's it.
Okay, good question. Thank you for that. In your control panel, there's a little tab in my control panel. It's the second to the bottom. It's right below questions, and it says handouts. And if you click on that, it'll give you a place where you can download. So I don't think you can see my control panel, but I think I can do this. So I'm just doing a snippet, and Debbie, can you see that snipping tool on my computer? Does that show up?
Yep, that looks good.
Okay, so I just did a little print screen snippet of my control panel, but it's right here where it says handouts, and you just click that arrow and that'll open that up, and then you'll be able to download. Thank you for that question. Okay. Okay. So this month then we're getting ready to have that first meeting with your advisory council. It's always a really exciting time. I love hearing back from teams after they've had that first meeting with their council. It tends to go very well and generate a lot of excitement. So first thing I want to do is do a quick walk through the manual. So I'm going to go to the online system, and I'm logged in as Bremen, so I'm going to go to the Manual tab now in the left-hand navigation bar. And when I go there, I have lots of resources, but I'm going to scroll down to the section that says Meeting 1 RSC Intro. And I just want to show you what you have available here. So this is a cover page for your meeting. It's got a place where you can type in your school's name, and it's got the RSC logo on it. And so we just tried to save you some time by creating a cover page for your handouts. Here's the agenda. We'll go through that in a second. Here's a template where you can type in your roster members. I'm going to open that up right now and kind of just give you a heads up on this one so I don't forget to do this. In this, you can see this is a template. So you would type in each of your council members' name, their phone number, their email. Down the road, we hope that your council members will become partners with you and will actually implement guidance activities as community members. So we would like them to get to know each other. So I think sharing the people's contact information is kind of a good idea. The last column you're going to keep blank. And in this column, as the warm-up in your meeting, when people are introducing each other, what you'll ask people to do is to introduce themselves, maybe where they work, but then also what unique perspective do they bring to the table. So, one parent might say, well, I'm the parent of a third grader. I can bring third grade parents' perspective to the table. Someone else might say, I'm a small business owner. I could bring that perspective to the table. Or I can, the students might say, well, I can bring, 8th grade students' perspective to the table. So everybody's sharing the unique perspective that they feel that they're bringing to the table. Now, you may think, well, gosh, I invited Jane Doe to be a parent on this council because Jane is the parent of a free and reduced lunch student. So you've got a low-income parent at the table. But Jane might say, I can represent third grade parents. And that's fine. We want to write down in this column what the perspective is that each individual feels that they bring to the table. So we do this for a couple of reasons. One, we want to make sure that everybody sees that there's a lot of different perspectives at the table. And the other thing is we want each person to understand that if they are not at your meeting, there's a voice that's missing. So if Jane doesn't come back, the third grade parents don't have a voice at your meeting. So it just kind of makes folks understand why it's so important that each individual council member attends all of your meetings. Just wanted to kind of point that out. So we've got the council roster template. We've got the presentation that you're going to do. I'm going to walk through those slides today with you. And then there's the RSC process diagram. And then this is another template where you can type in all of your meeting dates for the year. So those are the handouts. You may decide you don't want to include the meeting dates template, or you don't want to, you want to change the roster so it doesn't include phone numbers and email addresses. And just realize that it's okay with us for you to edit these things so that they meet the needs of your individual school and your community. So we just create these kind of to give you a starting spot. Same thing on the presentation. If you don't like one of the slides or the way we worded it or whatever, feel free to edit it. It's also okay for you to take off American Student Achievement Institute in the title of any of these and put your school's name in there. The one thing that we would ask you to keep on is our copyright that's down at the bottom of the page. But all of our work can be replicated for educational purposes as long as you keep the citation on. But feel free to add your school's name on the top of anything. Okay, so that's the handouts. And then the tools, these are things that are going to help you facilitate the meeting. So the first one is prep for meeting one. That's just going to have a list of steps to get ready. Do you have a meeting location? Do you have the LCD projector ready to go? Have you invited people to the meeting? Did you call them and remind them the day before? So everything that we feel that you need to do ahead of the meeting to get ready is listed in here, and it's kind of done as a checklist so that you can sit down as a steering team and kind of talk through all the things that we think you're going to have to do to get ready for that meeting. So, okay. Then facilitator notes. Let me open that up. For each of your council meetings, you'll have a facilitator notes. And in there, we kind of start out by saying, what we're trying to accomplish with this meeting. Again, how to prep for the meeting. Here's the handout packet, some posters that you'll need to make so that you can capture comments on the posters during the meeting. And then out of each of your council meetings, there will be products. So the products for this first meeting are a group norms poster where you've brainstormed with folks what they would like the group norms to be, like starting on time, ending on time, not interrupting people, things like that. And then you'll also, another product will be the school counseling benefits brainstorm poster. So that'll be a discussion where you're capturing everybody's ideas on these posters. Then as you walk down in the facilitator guide, it gives you here's the part of the agenda, and then we've given you a bunch of tips for how to make this part of the agenda run well. So it might be things that we think are hard to explain, or resistance that we think you might have, but we've kind of have walked through that agenda with you and given you some thought of our thoughts in terms of facilitating that part. So, okay. Then also in tools, you can see we've given you both posters that you need. That'll, of course, download as an 8.5 by 11, and then you can either just, get a poster board and hand copy it, or better yet, take it to a printer and have them blow it up onto usually we'll use a 2-foot by 3-foot poster when we do our blow-ups. Here's a sample of what the benefit statement might look like after the brainstorm and after you go back and create it based on the brainstorm. And then finally, things to do following the meeting, like sending people a thank you note or submitting things into the online system. That's just a list of that. So, okay. So I'm going to go back, and the two things I'd like to go over is the agenda and the presentation. So I'm going to open up the agenda, and we'll take a look at that. Okay, so this is what the agendas will always look like. So we don't know what time you're going to start your meetings. So we've just written time out here. So if you're starting your meeting at 6 p.m., you'd write in 6 o'clock. And then to kind of calculate what time, where you should be by the next part of the agenda, we've estimated out here how long that section would take. So if you type in 6 o'clock here, this should be 6:20. And the next section is going to take you 40 minutes, so this would be 7 o'clock. So if you're going to have your meeting in the morning and you're starting at 11, then you just work the timing based on 11 o'clock start time. So the meeting can be divided into 2 shorter meetings. So all of our workshops all of our local meetings are designed to be 2-hour meetings. We think when they're 1-hour meetings, you just get going and it's time to clean up, and you really don't have time to get into the depth of a discussion. So we really like 2-hour meetings. Council members usually tell us that they would prefer 1 2-hour meeting rather than 2 1-hour meetings. But if you decide to do this as shorter meetings, you can kind of see usually where we put the break would be a good place to kind of adjourn and then reconvene another day. So, but again, our strong recommendation would be that you set up a 2-hour discussion. A lot of folks, if you have, someone in their community that will, a support group that would, or a service club that would bring in dinner for you as you meet. Sometimes it's just good to meet over dinner, do a working dinner, and okay. So what we're doing in the agenda this time is, first of all, the welcome, the introductions, and the warm-up. There's a warm-up in the facilitator notes. You don't have to use a warm-up, but if you do, we put one in for you. The school counseling, redesigning school counseling intro. So you're going over foundational beliefs, activities, and accountability. So there's slides on that. And then a break. And then we're continuing with the intro into looking at organizational structure, the design process, and then the portfolio that you're doing online, and then the recognition that you can earn from doing this work. And then there's 2 activities, a real quick 10 minutes to set up your group norms, and a 20 minutes to do a brainstorm about the benefits of school counseling. So one of the things that we wanted to do is to establish at the very first meeting that most of the focus in all of the meetings will be on us listening and you listening and the council talking. So we wanted to get a just kind of a touch of that in this very first meeting. You can see the agenda is mainly you speaking to your council members, and that's just something we have to do at the beginning as we introduce everything. But we did want to put in one activity, and you can tell your council, this is what it's going to be like from now on. We'll give you some data. We'll ask you to respond to us and then give us your thoughts. So it's always going to be us after tonight or today. It's always going to be us listening to you rather than us talking to you. So, but just in this first meeting, there's just a lot to share about where we're going, what we're doing, terminology, etc. So, okay, so that's the agenda. And then let me go back and we'll open up the presentation. And actually, let me check real quickly. We just uploaded this. I just updated this. I'm not sure our staff's had enough time yet to get it into the system. I have to go into my slides. Let me see what we got here. I'm going to open up this from my system. And let's see. Council intro, PowerPoint. Okay, so when you download this as soon as we finish, I'll make sure that we've got this new version uploaded. And this, make sure I have the right version. Oops. Oh, I don't. I'm glad I checked that. One more time. Sorry about that. We've been trying to update things. Let's see, handouts for intro 1. Yep, there it is. Okay. Just check. Yep, that's it. Okay, so you're welcoming people as they come into the room. And, kind of think about how can you be really warm and welcoming right from the get-go. What we do often is we'll meet people at the door. And again, if you have more than one you have 2 steering team members. But, you might think about that one person on your steering team is actually greeting people at the door, thanking them for coming. And then people come in, they get seated, and then another person on your steering team is walking up to the folks in the room and kind of, introducing themselves and welcoming them. So name tags, I think, is a nice touch so that people, realize that they were expected. If you can do name tags ahead of time. or pass out blank name tags so that they can write their own name. Sometimes when I go to meetings, people have a placard, like it's a 8.5 by 11 cardstock that they've written my name on and folded it over, and then that's at my seat in front of me at the table if we're sitting in a round or a square, so that everybody can see everybody else's names in big print as you're facing each other. So yeah, just kind of be thinking, how can we make this really kind of positive and upbeat right as people come in the door, that, that they're so welcomed and you're so excited to have them there. So, okay. So then we'll move right into introductions, and we're asking people, to introduce themselves and then to share what perspective they bring to the table. Then you might give some, some examples, like, your perspective might be as a third grade parent or a business owner, or someone representing youth service organizations. So give some examples, and then you just go around, everybody introduces themselves. And then I also would ask them to look at that roster that's in their packet, and to just, as people share their perspectives, to just write down, what perspective people are bringing to the table. I think that will be really a nice visual of all the broad perspectives that you've collected and have there at the table. So then you're going over the agenda. So you're basically talking about that, you're going to do a quick intro to school counseling, foundational beliefs, activity types, and accountability. Then you're going to talk about what you're doing this year. What's our organizational structure? What's our program design process going to look like? We'll have a portfolio at the end of this. We'll kind of talk about that, talk about the 2 awards that you should be able to earn through this process. And then the last thing we're going to do is end up with doing a brainstorm about the benefits for school counseling for different groups. And that brainstorm will become the what's behind our school counseling benefit statement. So, okay. So then you'll go into foundational beliefs, and I'm not going to spend any time on this because you've already talked about it. We're emphasizing that we've already talked about this. We're emphasizing that school counseling is for every student. We're defining different types of school counseling activities. Then we're, going into the terminology. So here's guidance activities, giving some examples of a guidance curriculum. This is a real new thought for people, that there's a curriculum in guidance. And I like to say in this slide that it's just like there's a math curriculum or a science curriculum or an English curriculum. There's a curriculum for school counseling. It's a guidance curriculum that we want all students, things that we want all students to learn. And then the other thing that I always do in this slide is I call these areas subjects instead of domains. In school counseling, we refer to these as domains often, but nobody else uses that terminology. But if you call them subjects, people will get it. They understand what a subject is. Okay, then, we have lesson plans. So we're really trying to, show them that guidance is a curriculum, and that, we're teaching when we're in that mode. So wanting to help them understand that guidance teaching can happen one-on-one, but it can also happen in a group setting. Lots of different people can provide guidance, so we're really starting to plant seeds here that, maybe they're a community member that can also get engaged in guiding kids, or a classroom teacher where we can integrate some of the guidance lessons down the road into the classroom, either on a small basis, or if you go into guiding all kids, this is what we do big time with that initiative. So, but either way, even without guiding all kids, we can still plant seeds that people will help you deliver the guidance curriculum in your school. So then we're talking about counseling. Really emphasizing here that counseling is not for all students, it's just for some. And again, if your school is typical, it would be about 1 in 5 students have a social personal issue that they feel is interfering with learning. Counseling is not provided by just anyone, but it's by licensed school counselors, school social workers, and psychs. And going back on this guidance one, here we want to emphasize that guidance is for all students in the building, just like math is for all students and English is for all students, guidance is for all students. And we're in teaching mode when we're doing this. It does not take a master's degree in school counseling to teach someone what a FAFSA is. It just takes a knowledgeable person. So guidance activities can be provided by counselors, of course, but also by parents and teachers and community members. Okay, so counseling. So we've defined counseling, and then just, I'm sure people are aware of this in this day and age, but that the kids bring a lot of issues to school. And sometimes I think that the general public doesn't really understand the implication of that and how big that is. I like to use this slide because, when you look at all of these issues that kids have, it's amazing that we get any teaching done. So, but we want folks to, to think about, oh gosh, especially your community members. There's a lot of different issues here. Introducing the idea that down the road you'll be putting together a student assistance team to help students that are referred to the team to develop interventions that would be the right interventions for those kids. And introducing the idea that there's different levels of interventions, that, we could do a level 3 where there's a licensed help provider who's giving those services. It could be level 2 that's just friendly listening and information sharing, which could be peer helpers or teacher advisors or community mentors, or it could be just a very simple level 1 where we're just changing somebody's seat assignment or doing a homework log. So different levels in the counseling area as well. So then we're defining advocacy, and again, advocacy is just the activities that we do to create an environment that is supportive of high academic achievement for all groups of students. For example, low-income students, and all individual students. And again, it's not just counselors that advocate on behalf of kids. It could be any of your council members or teachers or parents. And again, we could be advocating for a group of students like low-income kids, or we could be advocating for an individual student. And then management are the behind-the-scenes tasks that are necessary for school counseling program to run smoothly. They're provided by school counselors. And there are the types of management tasks that we do to make the school counseling program run well. I always emphasize this, and you probably just heard that emphasis in my voice, that it's to make the school counseling program run well, not the school, but the school counseling program run well. Because then we're going to immediately define what is a non-program activity, and these are, good activities, and they help the school run well, but not necessarily the school counseling program. So, but not the school counseling program. So any activity that does not help students master guidance standards or does not help students address personal and social issues that are interfering with learning, those are non-program activities. And then again, just to give people an idea of what those activities are, I think this is a really important slide because a lot of times school counselors have done those non-program activities for so long that it's just assumed that that's what we're supposed to be doing. So, we want to just emphasize, and I always like to kind of make people, especially if your principal's in the room, less defensive maybe by saying that these are good activities. I mean, somebody's got to print report cards, somebody's got to, calculate class ranks or organize graduation or do state testing. But it's just not a school counseling program. But it may, be that you end up doing this because after your council looks at everything that's, everybody else that's available and, really thinks about how can we get these activities away from our counselors, there may not be any good way to get them away from you. So, but my guess is that there will be. So, but we just want to, we want to be careful here that it's not appearing as though the counselor that's presenting this is being an advocate for themselves, to say, okay, we're advocating for counselors to get rid of these non-program activities. So you want to kind of soft pedal this, I think, at this point, that just say, yeah, somebody's got to do these things, but we just want to have a discussion, as part of this about, do we want it to be the counselors to do it? Because when counselors are doing these things, it takes time away from the time that they have to spend with kids and parents. So, okay. And I can almost promise you, that if you soft pedal this here, later when we pull that data in, the time use data that you're doing, you're not going to have to hard pedal it. Your counsel will hard pedal it on your behalf. They'll say, get these things away from the counselors. Okay, but soft pedal at this point would be my advice. Okay, then we're also saying to folks, down the road, we're going to want to put in an activity balance. So, down the road, we'll be talking about as a council, what percentage of our time do we want counselors to spend doing guidance activities, counseling activities? We'll put some targets in there, and then we'll look at our actuals. We'll see how they match up, and we'll talk about, what do we need to change to come closer to our targets. So, okay, that'll be when your time task data is pulled into the discussion. So, okay. And in terms of accountability, our accountability focus in redesigning school counseling is helping students make targeted choices. So for accountability, we're going to look at what percentage of students are making those targeted choices. We'll have baseline data, and then we'll have follow-up data. And our programming should increase the percentage of students that are making those targeted choices. And if not, then we'll tweak and we'll adjust until it does. So, but my guess is that your programs will be very well planned out, and you'll see some really significant gains in your targeted choices. So a lot of times folks don't have a sense of where do we get data from in terms of school counseling. So the simplest way to do it is just through asking students. I've taken a career interest inventory. Yes. Don't know. No. I've written high school course plan. I've submitted a FAFSA. So we just ask students to self-report. When we're looking at hundreds of aggregated data points, hundreds of students that have taken the survey, you'll be able to see some trends from question to question. The questions that are problem points will stand out. Okay, and then here are additional, let me see. Yeah, those are students. And on this slide, we're pointing out that in addition to the survey, you could just count things. So like if the student choice is that kids have taken a career interest inventory, you could just have kids who do that in your computer lab just log in that they took a career interest inventory and actually count that way. You could open up your file drawer and count how many kids have a course plan on file with you. So there's things that you can do other than the survey data. Okay, then this would be a break. Then we're coming back and we're saying, okay, let's talk now about this year. Here's our organizational structure. You're introducing the steering team, and I would introduce yourselves and, explain to people that it's your job to just facilitate 6 discussions with the council. And then you'll be using the council's input to develop the different components of the school counseling program. So you are the worker bees. So the council are not worker bees. They come to the meetings, they give us input, but the work is done between the meetings by the steering team. So they are the advisory council. They attend 6 meetings. They provide input on program design, and they provide feedback after the activities are implemented. And they begin to serve as ambassadors, if they want, for the school counseling program. So, but the main thing there is that they provide input on the program design, number 2. So, okay, so they're thinker bees. They're not worker bees. So when they go home from the meeting, that's it until the next meeting. Okay. Then there are also RSC implementers. So down the road, we're planting a seed here. Down the road, when we start to implement activities, we're going to be talking about who's in a good position to reach kids. Well, it might be some activities we ask parents to do with their children. Other activities we ask educators to do, school counselors, teachers, advisors, or mentors, people in the building. We're asking them to implement some of the guidance and counseling activities. Or it could be community organizations. Maybe one of the service clubs does a fundraising event and then takes all of your 10th graders on a field trip to see different types of post-secondary campuses. So again, we're kind of planting the seed. We're hoping that a year from now or 8 months from now, folks will start to step forward and say, we could help with this. So, okay. Then the design process, basically we're talking about what they're doing on their council. So we're covering that November, December. They're getting ready, and kind of what we just went through. That, and now we're at the first meeting. So I'm talking to the council. This is our first meeting. We're doing the introduction today. Then we'll get together next month and talk about our vision, and then our program goals, the school counseling goals. Then we're going to talk about how can we expand our resources, especially how can we get more time. And once we know what our expanded resources look like, then we'll go back to our list of program goals and come up with a small number of priority goals. Those priority goals we're really going to go to town on. We're going to figure out why aren't kids making those choices. And then once we know why they're not making the choices, either they don't have knowledge or opportunity, or they have social personal things that are interfering with them, their ability to make choices. Once we know the whys, then we'll, in April and May, we'll have a discussion with you about what to do about it. What activities are we going to put in place? That'll be our last meeting with the council. And then next summer, early summer, we'll start preparing to implement the activities that that y'all helped us pick out to be part of our program. So, okay, so you're going through that. You're saying to folks, every time we have a discussion, there will be products that come out of that discussion, like a vision or goals or benefit statement, and then we'll drop those into this online portfolio. Then at the end of all this, you're telling your council, we will meet all the requirements for the ASCA RAMP Award and the Indiana Gold Star School Counseling Award, and we anticipate that with their help, with the council's help, that we'll be able to have those 2 awards. So, okay, then you're ending with the last 2 activities. Remember, these are pretty quick activities in RSC. So we're doing a brainstorm about the group norms. The way we like to do these is that one of your steering team members would be actually facilitating the discussion, and another person would be typing in what people said. So you'd go down into this mode where you could type it in, and somebody's facilitating, and the first thing that comes up is to start on time, and then put kids first, or whatever people want the norms to be. So, okay, then everybody can see that their ideas were heard and that they were so important they got typed into the list. So, okay. Okay, and then we always do a consensus check. So the consensus check are 2 questions. The first one is, in terms of these norms, can you live with them? And could you support them publicly if somebody asked you about them? And I always emphasize, you don't have to love them, but can you live with them? And could you support them publicly? Okay. Then the second brainstorm is about the benefits of school counseling. And so we're looking at what are the benefits of RSC and school counseling for students, counselors, teachers, parents, local business, and local community. And then all of this will just end up being part of the product that comes out of your meeting, which will be the school counseling benefit statement. So, and I would kind of play this up big, that, okay, we're ready for our first discussion. We're finished with the introduction. We're kind of going into now what this council is all about, which is thinking and providing input. So the first thing we want you to think about is your benefits of school counseling. We'll use the information that you give us and the thinking that you do to help us create our school counseling benefit statement, which is one of the foundational pieces of our work. So then you'll go on one at a time. Oops, that slide will come out of there. You'll come in one at a time. RSC helps students, and then how does school counseling and RSC, how does that help kids? And so you can type in people's responses there. Then how does it benefit counselors? How does it benefit teachers, parents, local businesses, and the local community? So how does RSC and school counseling do that? So in the manual, There is a sample benefits statement where we've kind of taken what other communities have said and put it into a sample. So to get some ideas of maybe what might be said, you could look at that. And then you could also be seeing, too, as people respond, if there are some things that people leave out that you think are important, you can feel free to say, this is a benefit that I think is, will happen, and I'd like to toss it out. So especially on the community benefits, there is a lot of, there's been research that shows that RSC raises academic achievement. And so what we want to think about with the community is, what changes would you expect to see in the community if you're increasing the academic level, the learning level of your students. So as the percentage of kids who are successful in K-12 and go into post-secondary ed, as that goes up as a result of RSC, in the community, there'll be all kinds of other things, like there'll kids or adults who have more education, spend more time with their students, they volunteer more, they vote more, they're healthier. So in the sample brainstorm, benefits brainstorm, I've included all of those for you, so you could get some ideas there. So, okay. And then we're just thanking folks for coming, and I'd really play up here that what they offered during the meeting, the discussion that you had, is going to result in the first foundation document, which is the benefit statement. So you're on your way, and then you can give them a teaser next time you come back. We're going to be talking about our vision and what our dreams are for our kids. And it's really important that we have every single one of your perspectives at the table, because we don't want that dream to be just based on the school counselor's dreams. We want it to be a really broad-based dream. So, okay. So let me pause there. I know we are getting close to the witching hour. Debbie, questions? Or if you have questions as I'm switching screens, type them in, please.
Yes, we had a question from, I believe it was Andrea. You've mentioned data collection a few times. Is there data that first-year applicants should have collected already at this point?
Yeah, so let's look at that. Are there any other questions, Debbie, before I move on to that?
No. Are you going to discuss with them about Instagram?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it.
Good. Yeah, and if I forget, remind me. Okay, so I'm now going to go to the process tab. And so here are the things that we think you've finished already. All the getting organized, recruiting your steering team members, entering the process uses, all of these steps we think that you have finished, or it is our expectation that you finished. And as I've talked with Debbie, I know that you guys have been submitting work like crazy. So we've got that. Then we think that you are in the process right now of building your advisory council, and it looks like, based on the poll we did earlier, it looks like you guys, the majority of you, have a really good start on that. So that's wonderful. People always ask us, how big should the advisory council be? If you have recruited all of your stakeholder groups, it usually ends up being 25, 30 people. Remember, in the manual, there's some tools to help you identify your stakeholder groups and talking points and everything you need to put that council together. Then we think that you've been collecting data, and there's different types of data. We know that you've started doing your time use logs. If not, I would, do these two steps right away. Estimate your counselor time use percentages. You can just enter that in there and begin your time use logs. This is a video that goes through how to create the log, how to use our online system to enter data. So yeah, make sure you take a peek at that if you haven't already. Then there's the next steps are self-studies, and you can see this. All of the self-studies are due December 15th. So if you haven't done those, you've got a few weeks to get those done. Most of them are pretty short. It's just kind of checklists. The one I think that's the most, well, there's several that are most important, but this Elements of Model School Counseling Programs. This is one document that we've created where you just check off, we have this, we have this, we have this. I really like that document. I think it helps you really think about where you are right now in terms of your program. But just a caution, if you were where you needed to be, you would not be doing redesigning school counseling. So don't be surprised if when you get into those elements, there's a lot of elements that you don't have right now. I can guarantee you that by the end of this, except for the different delivery methods that we do with Guiding All Kids, you'll have all these elements developed. So don't worry right now if you're not finding things that you can check. That's why you're doing RSC. Student opportunities self-study. This is just a checklist of opportunities that Sound School counseling programs tend to offer for students. And again, you just open it up and check it off. Indiana Resource Utilization Self-Study, Program Resource Self-Study. Yeah, so those are all due in December. And then the survey is, for some of you have already surveyed. You surveyed last spring. You gave the 2017 survey. If that is, if you did that, that's the survey we're going to use to base your program design on. If you did not survey, what we're going to do is we're going to open up early for you the 2018 survey. So the 2018 survey, only for you, we will not announce this publicly, only for you is going to open on January 2nd. And you would need to survey your students between January 2nd and February 16th. So you've got about a 6-week period in there to get all the kids surveyed. And again, you saw that that half of the people that have already surveyed did a teacher-facilitated survey. I think that's the way. To me, that's a really good way to go because it's very little time commitment on your end. So this is a video on setting up the survey and goes through the questions that are on the survey, how to administer the survey. I mean, you've got everything that you need to know is in this video. And then this is the video will tell you what to do in here, but basically you're going to click this icon to set up the survey. And then as soon as the survey is set up, the computer will give you codes. There's a different code for each grade level, and you give those codes to your students before they survey. So at any rate, if you're surveying, if you have not surveyed yet, you'd want to give this 2018 survey before February 16th. Now, if you did survey, you are also going to give this 2018 survey, but we want you to wait until after March to do that. In RSC, we survey every year so we can start to see progress with data. But we want to survey as close to the end of the year as we can, so that when we ask students, "Did you do this year?" They'll have the whole year to reflect back on. For schools that have not surveyed, we're kind of cutting the year short. And again, I would put that survey date as close to February 16th as you can, or a week or whatever that you're surveying in your school. So Debbie can answer questions for you later if you want to talk about your specific situation with her and get her some guidance. Okay, then here are the steps for the things that you're doing in December. So you're going to, actually you're watching the webcast right now, so you can check this one off. You've done it. You've attended the webinar. You've done that. Then you're going to facilitate Council Meeting 1. When we set up your meeting dates at the beginning of the year, we gave you a very short window to get this done in. So we know you already have a council meeting established that's falling between December 2nd and December 8th. If for some reason you don't have that first council meeting date already set, you want to do that ASAP. I always try to give them at least 2 weeks notice before I hold a meeting, before we actually have a meeting. So you'd want to give people, I think, at least 2 weeks notice. But if you don't have that meeting set, you need to get it set up right away. Also notice on the future meetings, we've given you the window for each of the future meetings, and it's the same window that we gave you back up here when the get organized, when you entered, I don't know, one of these steps says to enter the dates for all of your meetings. So, okay. So you're going to facilitate the meeting. Then you're going to enter your benefits statement. That's pretty easy. It's just benefits for students. You just type it in. And if you're going to bullet the list, use an asterisk as your bullet. Our system doesn't recognize other characters. So a bullet, a dash would work, but an asterisk is, I think, what most people use. Now, the other thing that in order to document your meeting, we want to do two things. One is we're going to enter minutes for the meeting. And let me open that first. So here are people that are on the council. So all your council members will appear in here. So you're going to say, who's writing the minutes. You're going to check off who was there. And then you're just going to explain what happened. The rubric for the minutes has some kind of strange things in it. I'll look at that in a second. But that's how you enter the minutes. And then the other way that we would like you to document that you had your meetings, this is new this year, is we'd like you to post a photo on Instagram. And we're working on this right now. It should be ready in the next couple of days. But basically, you'll create an Instagram account. So I'm just going to go to Instagram, and so it'll just pop up with Instagram, and then you'll create an account. And what I wanted to show you is that if you do hashtag redesigning school counseling, photos that other people have uploaded and put this hashtag on all get put into the same folder. And when you search for that, there we go. You can see right now we're the only ones who are accessing that hashtag. But as you have your meetings, when you put that hashtag on your meetings photo, it will put it in this folder so that Debbie will be able to see it, I'll be able to see it. And then the other hashtag that we're suggesting that you use will be the hashtag RSC dash and then your school's DOE number. And that way, all of your photos from your council meetings will be put into one folder, and you'll have kind of a pictorial history of your work through this process. So on all of your uploads to Instagram, you want to put hashtag redesigning school counseling, and then hashtag RSC dash, and then your school DOE number. Okay, but yeah, so you can see, and then if you want to see our organization, if you do an @ sign, so the @ sign takes you to organizations, the hash sign takes you to folders. So if I do the @ sign, and then we are the student.achievement.institute, you can see we start to pop up there, and then here's all of our photos. So yeah, so here's the ISCA conference. And the way we do these is that I just think makes it easier. If I go to this photo, you can see I put in a comment about the photo when I entered the photo, and then I put in a second comment and started doing the hashtags. So yeah, so we can, and it's kind of fun. Like, I can look at Indiana School Counselor. I didn't create that hashtag, somebody else did, but here's people that have dropped photos into Indiana School Counselor. It's kind of fun to see everybody's photos. Any rate, so going back to the vision to action process, this link, create an Instagram account, and then this is a tool where you'd create it, and then we want you to post one of your photos from your or several of your photos from your council meeting to your Instagram account. And when you've done that, you'll click here. This is just going to be a page that tells Debbie that it's time for her to check to see that your photo is up, and then you'll submit that. Okay, and then meeting minutes we talked about. This last thing, the stages of change, I'm going to talk about that real quickly. This is new also. We want to kind of be thinking about who's coming along in this discussion about school counseling in your community. So in terms of your steering team, what stage of change are they in? Do they have no knowledge? Do they have information about this? Are they interested? Are they preparing? And are they in early use of implementing programming? Are they in routine use? So, you guys on the steering team, you're definitely, probably beyond interest. You're actually doing something, so preparation, early use. Levels of engagement. Are the people on your steering team make it happen people, let it happen people, or blockers in terms of implementing redesigned school counseling? So I would probably think on your steering team, probably everybody's a make it happen person. Right now, this will just say counsel, not guiding all kids. Right now, you probably don't know the degree to which your council members are going to be engaged. But later, I think you'll have a certain number of people on your council that are going to make this happen, some of that will let it happen, and some that maybe even would be blockers. So some of these may not be applicable if you don't have a teacher advisor program. There would be nothing to fill in on this. If you're not integrating with your academic curriculum, there would be nothing to fill in here. But so everything would be, unknown. We don't have a teacher advisor program, so we don't know how our teachers feel about that. We're not using our parents as advisors, so we're unknown there. But again, we're just kind of trying to help you think about who are these other populations that might be engaged in helping you implement your program down the road, and where are they in terms of their engagement with you. So again, counselors, you may not have 100% of your counselors on board. You may have some counselors that, don't like this RSC stuff at all and are going to be a blocker in there, and maybe 75% that are make it happen people. So, and we hope that doing this little quick activity will make you start thinking about, this one counselor that's really kind of a blocker, what's that counselor afraid of losing? And why, where is that fear coming from? What are they afraid of losing? And then working to resolve that for that counselor. Or your council members, or maybe you'd love to do a teacher advisor program, but you know that there's going to be a lot of blockers. What are they afraid of losing? So, okay. So just, real quickly, do that. At each month, we'll redo this, and then down the road, you'll be able to get some reports out that show you how people are coming along as you implement redesigning school counseling. So, okay, that's it. Let's take questions, then we'll close. So, I forgot one thing. The one thing, let's see. I did want to show you on the rubric, benefits rubrics, pretty straightforward. On the minutes rubrics, this is the one I wanted to mention to you. Minutes contain the names of those present and the group they represent, so we talked about that. And then this one, minutes contains references to specific people who contributed ideas. So you don't have to quote like everybody in your council, but if you could, 2 or 3 people, if you could say something like Jane Doe added that, blah, 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 or Wilbur Smith said that, blah, blah, blah. What we find is that if you can mention specifically comments that were made by 2 or 3 people in your minutes, then what that says to everybody is that you were listening. and you are much more likely to get them to come back to the next meeting. So this is a way for you to prove to your council members that you were listening, that you're going to quote some of them. We've had steering teams that have just, gotten a tape recorder and taped the whole meeting. I don't think that's necessary. That might make people a little nervous. But one of your steering team members might be just in charge of, writing down some quotes from folks, so that you can reference what people said. I think you'll find that that will be huge in terms of getting people to come back to the next meeting. So, okay, Debbie, what questions do we have?
Okay, so far, I think you've answered all of our questions.
Okay, anything you want to add?
I want to thank everybody for their work. I think almost everyone is in attendance, and nearly everyone has completed submissions, but I do want all of the schools to know that I've noticed some of you have completed the task but have not clicked the submit button. So just make sure that you select that submit button so I know it's ready to review.
Okay, that sounds good. Great. Well, I know Debbie's been sharing with us how well this cohort of RSC is going, and that's really exciting. It is really exciting. We just get tickled. So in this Instagram, again, since we don't get to see you, this is our way of seeing what's going on in your school. And I just think that there's going to be a lot of really good uses for it. One, to communicate with us. I tell you, if you're looking for funding later, like if you're applying for the Lilly Round 2 funding, to be able to show pictures of 25 people from the community all sitting around talking and planning, I think that would be huge in applying for grants later. We just have a sense that that documenting with pictures as well as words is going to be important. So, but it's the first time we've done it. So if you run into snags or whatever, call us. And I think we're kind of learning about Instagram as well. So together we'll figure out how to make this work. But I think it'll be really good. And we'll keep posting as well as we attend meetings and see people. And so yeah, look for hashtag redesigning school counseling. So, okay, Debbie, any other questions? Anything else?
No, we're good to go. Thank you, Sue.
Okay, thank you, everybody, and good luck in that first meeting, and please use Debbie. I think you'll find that it's an exciting meeting, and I can't wait to hear from you all next month. So thanks, and have a wonderful holiday, too. Have a great break from school, get rested, spend time with family and friends, and we'll see you in January. Thanks, everyone.